Hi everybody, my name is Darian Ellis and I'm here with the Houston 100, powered by the Minority Report. Today my guest is Captain Paul J. Matthews, the founder of the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum here in Houston. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Outstanding.
Great. So again, thank you for being here. I want you to tell myself and the viewers a little bit about your museum and the motivations for you starting it.
Well, I first heard about the Buffalo Soldiers. I was an ROTC cadet at Prairie View A&M University back in the 1960s. And I read 2 paragraphs in one military book about the Buffalo Soldiers and became very intrigued about these black men in these blue uniforms. It led me on a 35-year journey of collecting artifacts, documents, memorabilia that led to the exhibit you see at the museum today.
So what specifically really drew you in and caused you to just have this infatuation with them and wanting to highlight the history of those African American soldiers?
Well, these men did what they did, not necessarily for themselves, but for those that came behind them. And that person was me. And I thought that was a story that needed to be told.
All right, okay. So what was your motivation for starting the museum? Like you just wanted to amplify and have a place where others can come, specifically African Americans?
Well, actually my wife, when I started loading things on the kitchen table, said, honey, it's time to get some of this stuff out of this house.
I understand. So what's one of the coolest artifacts that you were able to find?
Oh, that's like saying, which was your favorite child?
Oh.
You can't. We have tons of one-of-a-kind exhibits. But one, if you just look at the History Channel or any documentaries, you see 2 things. One is interviews, and the second one is letters. So we have a letter from a Buffalo soldier that was in Korea in 1952. And he wrote a letter to his mom, who lived in Brownwood, Texas.
Okay.
And in that letter he said, things are quiet here, hope things are quiet at home. And then he said, we heard today our unit was going to be integrated.
Wow.
That is powerful. Because you have a black man serving in Korea to fight for the liberation of Koreans in a segregated army.
Wow.
A very powerful statement. So those are the kind of things that we have at the museum that are very unique.
Okay. So, and forgive me if this is a silly question, but where did that nickname come from, the Buffalo Soldiers?
Yeah, that's the number one question that we get. The name came from the Cheyenne warriors. They saw 2 things in the soldiers that they saw in the buffalo. It was that naturally curly hair and that ferocious fighting spirit. And they put those 2 things together and they came up with wild buffalo. And the term wild buffalo eventually became Buffalo Soldier.
Nice. Okay. So just specifically regarding the museum, just in case we have entrepreneurs who are interested in that as well, how were you able to fund and create that museum?
Well, I retired from the pharmaceutical industry. I was the director of military sales for Merck. As a matter of fact, my claim for fame at Merck, I wrote the proposal that created the military sales division.
Nice.
And for that, I got a few stock options.
Okay.
So when I retired, we took funds from that and we started the museum. And of course, you have to have a dedicated support system. And when you are a startup operation like a museum, you have a community board. And the community board basically means you have family, friends, church members, fraternity brothers, and they all chip in and they serve as the mechanism to do the work at the new establishment, which was a museum. So that's how we got started. Initially with a loan, not a loan, actually a grant of $50,000 from my wife and I, and then the members of our family and friends that worked in the museum doing all of the administrative functions.
Okay. So why would you say it's so important to support Black-owned businesses? Why is it important that we collaborate and work together in our community?
Because you build from within. You support who looks like you. I mean, I'm old enough to know about the old Dowling Street, which is Emancipation Boulevard now. But we used to come from Prairie View in 63 and 1960 through 1967. And everything you wanted, was on Dowling. You had restaurants, barbershops, liquor store, they had everything. And then the integration came, And a lot of those businesses left and went other places. So we had a problem, we as a community had a problem supporting, the institutions that are in our community. And we need to get back to that.
Right, I completely agree with you. So what would you say you learned most about yourself by building this museum and having it function as a monument, actually?
Yeah, patience.
Patience.
Yeah, because when you're out in the working world and pharmaceuticals, you have to make a decision, you have to move fast, and you don't have time for a lot of other things. But when you open a new business, you're dealing with the public, you don't have all of the funds that you need. I mean, you have to go step by step. So there's a process into being successful. There's a process into turning a vision into reality. And in that process, patience goes along because it may not all come, at the same time.
So I know you get a lot of viewers each year. Have you had a visitor that just really stood out to you, kind of like it kind of took your breath away, maybe a celebrity or such?
No, we have visitors from around the world.
Right.
They come in, all kinds of celebrities. From the past, President Clinton was there. All of the folks who are running on the Democratic ticket for 2020, they came by. But the one that was most interested in me was a young lady from Paris, France. And she came in and asked about a trooper in the 92nd Infantry Division that introduced jazz to the French.
Wow.
And I said, wow, and at the time, I wasn't quite aware of that, so I did some research. But we get visitors from France, England, and Germany because that's what the soldiers were.
Okay. So for that young entrepreneur who is watching, what's that one piece of great advice that you would give to them for starting their business?
Well, make sure that you are financially stable.
Okay.
And that you're not using the business to run your life.
Right.
So you need some type of financial stability to be successful early on. So I think that's the key. That's what the key in my sense.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me, Captain Matthews. Where can they find the Buffalo Museum?
Yeah, 3816 Caroline at Alabama in the Museum District. With a gateway to the Museum District.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Again, my name is Darian Ellis, and I'm here with the Houston 100, presented by the Minority Report. Stay tuned.